Hey Christina, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yourself?
Yeah, good, good. What do we have today?
Yeah, so we've got a oncoming online session, upcoming, data input functionality in Qlik and how you can get this functionality at no extra costs. So what's the agenda for today?
Yeah, so first we quickly introduce EMARK and Infinity. Then we'll talk about the data input extension in Qlik forms. So from technical perspective, which use case it covers. We'll give you information about the Qlik and Forms bundle, how we can have it for at no additional costs. Then we'll do live demo and answer your questions. And then the best part, Mayo Hardware success story presented by Jeff Brown, General Manager Supply Chain from Mayo Hardware. So let's go. EMARK is a Qlik master reseller with highest rank of partnership with Qlik. Focuses on Qlik and Qlik products only for 10 years and is more than 19 years on the market and already has more than 200 Qlik customers. Infinity is a spin-off from EMARK, which focuses on Qlik related products. So alongside Forms, they distribute the unstructured data connector, the mole, reload button and reload extension, and world's first software as a service data analytics app store, Infinity app.
So Infinity is behind the R&D of Forms, right?
Right. So what is Forms? Forms is a Qlik certified extension for data input. There is only a few Qlik certified extensions so far, so there is a long process and a lot of requirements, and it allows you to store data directly in Qlik and in an easy way save them to XML or to database and reload them back to Qlik, so you can use them in any other Qlik applications. So it allows you to write back right in the Qlik application. You can update multiple rows of tables on one click, so you can do bulk edit. You can design your own input forms in Qlik edit mode, so it's available for all the users. And you can manage access in QMC, so it has the same security as Qlik. It is using the same users as Qlik. It has full audit log, so it tracks all the changes which all the users do. And you can export forms to Excel with single click. And of course, all data that are created by Forms can be used in any other tool, so ERP, CRM, or any other data analytics tools. The use cases that we are mostly covering, so it's budget planning and forecasting, where it helps to improve the process. We'll talk about this more in the next part. Capacity planning, tasks and projects tracking, commenting on records levels. You can add any comments. You can add any data. So some customers are using it for context management and adding more data into CRM, for example, about the campaigns. So it can save a lot of time. You can do single workflows and approvals, and you can create own categories, own products, and do any kind of manual inputs. There's really infinite number of use cases.
You can get really creative there.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
It is not limited to any industry, so we have customers from distribution companies such as Mayo Hardware. There's manufacturing companies like NVN International. There is healthcare companies, healthcare distribution, Allianz Healthcare, telco companies like 2N Telecommunications, Veracom, it's a retail company. Then we have banks and high-tech companies and so on. So there is really no limit, and it's not only some really small or single use case tool. So it really should help, like you can see on the case of Mayo Hardware, change the process. So in their case, it helped to change the budgeting process and made it more integrated, seamless, and collaborative, and save a lot of time. And as well as in Allianz Healthcare, with first they were able to get rid of Excel spreadsheets, but also it brought more information faster and hassle-free to the people who needed it in the field. So it's about the added value at first.
It's great to see the quotes like this when you can actually see how it's bringing value to the customers.
And Jeff will talk more, so you will see how they achieve this. So yeah, Christina, would you like to show how does it work?
Yeah, definitely. So let's go to the live demo. I've got it ready here, so you can see this is a typical Qlik dashboard. And let me let me expand this. So this is the forms object. So you can see it's it looks like any other, similar to any other Qlik object or table. It has a dimension, measure, and then as extra there are input columns, and the input columns can be set, there are different types, so it can be set as a number, it can be set as a drop down menu, as a plain text, and a few other options are there. And it's fully integrated with Qlik, so as you can see it works fully with selections. If I select one products category, then it only shows me the items that are related to this particular category. So this is really nice. I can start updating it and doing changes and things, and once there is something unsaved, you can see that this button turns red, so then I can just save it. And right now when I hit save, the data is already stored in either database or XML file. You can have both. You can either have it integrated with the database, or you can store the data in XML files.
Yeah, so it always stores with the information about user and time. So there's a timestamp. So-called.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and therefore you can have the full change log of changes. So let's see how we can create this from scratch. How difficult it is. So if you go to custom objects and under your extensions tab, you can see your different extensions, and that's where forms is sitting as well. So let me add a dimension. Then you can see here that the tabs are fairly similar to classic any Qlik object, and add a measure, which is, let's say, total cost. And then under appearance there is another form customization tab, and then there is a separate section for configuration. So for configuration, this is the default port that it's using, and in this case this is the title of XML file which stores the data. So you can define in here where the data is being stored, and then you can just start creating. So let's say responsible person. This can be a, let's say this will be a drop down menu. There's a select box, and it gives you the option to define your custom values. So I can say this will be Andy, John, Mary, and I don't know.
Is there any limit on the number of items you can have in the drop-down menu?
No, so far there's no limit. But of course, if it's too long, then it's not really very handy for users. But there's no limit technically. Then let's say I want to see a deadline. Set a deadline. We can make it slightly wider, and this will be a date. So note that there are different types for input fields. There's a date, stars, range, read only if you don't want users to have the access to update it. So for this one, let's pick a date.
So you can have different roles with different users. Some can edit, and some can read only. In this case.
Okay, so next one, let's say I want to see priority. And this can be star, and it gives you the number of stars that you want to have. Let's say three are enough.
Nice. Yeah. Can you also do some free text, just some comments?
Yeah, sure. Comment, and the label can be notes. Note that the column name, this can be technical name in a database, and the label can be different and can be also defined dynamically, which gives you more flexibility. And this can be quite wider, so let's say 200 for this. And that's text, plain text field. And let's do one more, which will be a checkbox. Approved. So as you can see, it's really easy to set up a new form because it's all done in user interface. It's the same principle as when you are building some other visualizations in Qlik, and you can already start using it. So if I want to change the deadline in here and say that I want to have this at the end of the year, I can do so. Change the priority, make this priority because I want to really make sure that it's highlighted, and then I can save it and I can already start using it. So a few more things that you can configure under the Appearance tab, Form Customization. You can show author. You can also show the timestamp of the last modification. And there is also a single column batch edit or global. And what it does is basically, it's quite handy if you want to, for example, update a specific category. I want to say, so if I select electronics, it responds to the selection, so I can only see 2 items now. And let's say for this category, I will say that Mary is the responsible one.
Do I have to set it up with a new object? So I create a new object, new forms object. Do I have to set it up that, okay, this item is linked to the category?
No, of course not, because it's using the dimension directly from the QlikSense data model. So it's all associated just like all other data.
So it's using the Qlik associated data model.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So yeah, now technically in a few minutes you create a brand new data input object where a user can put new data. So it's a totally new use case. So it doesn't take days or weeks to implement. So technically in a few minutes, few hours, you can have a new functionality.
Technically it's easy. I would say sometimes it takes more time to think of how it will change the process and all that, and what you do with the data, because you have the full changes and all the data that's stored in a database or XML, and then that can be then fed back into Qlik if you want to use it somehow, or it can be fed to some other third-party application if you want to use it somewhere else.
Yeah, so it's all about simple scenarios like this one and more complex scenarios like we use in Mail Hardware.
Yeah, exactly. We will be presenting that case study in a while. Okay, so that's about the demo. If you do have any questions, you can type it in any time. And now let's move on to the commercials.
Yeah, so we think that Qlik users can get a lot of value if they could do data input directly in the QlikSense apps. So together with Qlik, we created the QlikSense and Forms bundle, which means that if you buy 5, 10, or 20 user packs of Qlik users and licenses, you will get the forms at no additional cost. So you will just pay the same price as you pay for the standard QlikSense licenses, and you will get the forms at no additional cost. This is available only in Q4 to all new customers and existing customers for new use cases. So there should be additional licenses involved, and it is valid for Australia and New Zealand. If you need any other user pack, so for example, you need 17 users, different combination that it's defined in the standard bundles, then let's discuss. Just approach us or approach our Qlik partner, and we'll come up with a solution. And also, if you are from other region within APAC or anywhere in the world, again, let's talk and let's try to find some solutions.
So does it mean, sorry to interrupt your flow, but does it mean that if I'm now a QlikSense customer and I am on subscription, I can get, if I want to buy 5 new additional licenses, let's say, does it mean that I can get forms included for free? Like I don't have to pay anything extra. I just pay for Qlik licenses?
Yes. So if you buy minimum 5 new QlikSense licenses, then you get 5 or more forms users at no additional cost. You don't have to. So you can have any number of QlikSense licenses currently. So if you have 200, you can buy 5, 10, 20. So it's totally new use case. If you are not on subscription, or if you don't want to buy new licenses, then you still can buy forms for the standard price. So, and if you know that you need a data input functionality for 20 users, it doesn't have to be all. whole amount of users you have in Qlik. So it can be any number of users. They need to do data input. So for example, let's say it's 20 for $2,000 per year subscription, you can get data input functionality. And then if, for example, this is for the first use cases and then you need more, then you just pay difference, the delta price, and you get more and more licenses up to 16,000 per year, which is the unlimited version. So the more users then you have, the cheaper per user it is.
Okay, but if I have, for example, 200 current users and I will buy 5 additional licenses,
then it's 1,000. Yeah.
Yes, but I can buy it as a bundle, and therefore I can save 1,000 and have it included, right? But the forms will be only available to these 5 users.
And you can buy additional for any Qlik Sense license type, like virtual license and subscription. It is not available for QlikView, but we believe that Qlik Sense has so much more value and it's so powerful that it's worth to do the transition towards Qlik Sense. So you can set up, maybe this could be the right case to start the data input cases and start building your Qlik Sense if you are still using QlikView. And there is also, of course, a free trial, so the forms can be downloaded for free and tried for free. And when you're satisfied, then you can start to use it. So to wrap it up, and what I like the most, forms are really easy to use and they can be implemented and installed very quickly. Thanks to auto installation, it just takes a few minutes to install and you can start to use it right away, as Christina showed. There is no limit on the number of use cases and industries, so really you can be creative. And now at a special promo, you can get it at no additional cost with new licenses of Qlik Sense. So
okay,
thank you. Yeah. So if we have any questions we'd like to answer, just you can have a look now, or you can just time them in.
Yeah,
right now.
if you haven't had time to type it in, you can do so now, and we will go through all of them and answer them. Just please note that this is not the end. After the Q&A, there will be the section dedicated to case study of Mayo hardware. So who wants to see the solution more in detail, please stay tuned. Okay, so now the questions. So there is one question: if analyzer user or the user with analyzer license can enter the data, or is this just for professional users? So the answer is yes. Analyzer users can also input the data in forms, but they cannot create new forms instances, which is quite logical because they don't have access to editing mode. Then there is another question: if there is a separate user management and a separate sign-in for the forms. The answer is no. The user management is handled through Qlik Management Console, so it's fully integrated with Qlik. This is done via custom property. And the same for sign-in. So basically there is no separate sign-in for forms. You just sign into your existing Qlik environment, Qlik application with your existing Qlik user, and that is integrated with forms. So there's no separate additional login. Okay, so I don't see any more questions, but you can just feel free to put in any questions throughout the webinar. And now let's move on to the most interesting part of the webinar. And let's see how to streamline your budgeting in Qlik with forms and how they were able to do this in Mayo hardware. So let me pass the ball to Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Christina. Look forward to taking you guys through the story, Mayo hardware success story today, and the journey that we've been on with Qlik, EMARK, and budgeting. So who is Mayo hardware? Firstly, so we've been established in 1928, so we've been around 90 plus years. We're a third generation family business. The grandchildren of the original founders own and operate the business today. And basically we hold market leading position in outdoor lifestyles, safety, security and hardware categories. Some of the brands that we supply, so our first category is outdoor lifestyles. So you'll see brands like Barbecue Buddy, Char Griller that are around, barbecuing and entertaining. We have insect control products under our Waxworks brand, bug killing products under Gecko, and various other range of outdoor lifestyle products for everything you need for entertaining at home. Our second category is security, safety and hardware. Now this predominantly is made up of the Masterlock brand. Now that Masterlock is an interesting story. It was how the whole business was founded. So the original founder was on a train in America and was sitting next to a passenger. They got chatting. He was looking for a distributor. He had a great product. It was a laminated padlock and he was looking for a distributor. And the founder said, well, that's what we do. And even though he really didn't have that business established, but he knew he had enough to be able to do something with that product. So they did a handshake agreement there and then and brought the product into Australia and started distributing Masterlock padlocks through Australia. So it's a great story and something we're very proud of, and 90 years on we still have a very good relationship with Masterlock.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent story. And this was back in 20s, so that's a long time ago. It's interesting how the handshake agreement was, the equivalent of a contract back then.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that we, obviously we've now got a documented contract with Masterlock, but it's something that's still, the foundations of the agreement and the principles are still in place, and we work very closely together. We've recently brought on some other brands, as you can see listed below there. So we have Century Safes now, which is also through Masterlock, and we also do the Gorilla Glue products, which is, a very recent addition to our family of products, but, a very good product that's also out of America, out of Ohio. Our third category is workwear and power equipment. This is another recent addition to our portfolio. We sell DeWalt products, right, everything across the range from workwear, meaning boots and clothing, right up to generators and power equipment and high pressure cleaners. It's another great brand, and I think it's a good fit with what we do at Mayo Hardware. Now you might not know necessarily Mayo Hardware, but you would know all of our products, and you're probably consumers of them. Hopefully you're consumers of them, and you'll find them in these major retailers. So the main one obviously is being hardware products, is Bunnings. We're also right across the IHG group, meaning Mitre 10 and John Danks Home Timber and Hardware stores. We're in all the supermarkets, so Woolworths, Coles and IGA. You'll find us in discount department stores like Big W. We're in all the lifestyle products, customers, retailers like Harvey Norman, BCF, Barbecues Galore. And we also go into the industrial space and channel. So we're a major partner with Blackwoods, and we do a lot through mine sites and energy companies, and also through locksmiths as well. Okay, so that brings us to forms and budgeting. Okay, so what do we need to solve? So when we engaged with EMARK and started working with them about how we do our budgeting and what we needed to solve, there was a number of key issues that were problems. And I think to give it a bit of context, how we used to budget was in Excel, as most people would do their budgeting. But that had a number of limitations, and some of those we needed to eliminate manual interventions and errors. So through spreadsheets, you get different users who have different abilities, and we found we're getting inconsistencies in how they were using the templates, and that was causing a number of problems. The other problem we found, it wasn't easy to share it. So we had a wide user group that needed to access the templates and do all their inputs. It was difficult to share, and it wasn't very easy to consolidate all the data because it was all contained in different files. And what we found is we wanted our team focused on the actual numbers and the inputs they were doing more so than formulas, and trying to understand how an Excel spreadsheet was put together and trying to ensure they didn't break it.
It's easy to break the formula, isn't it? In Excel.
Very, very easy, very simple.
Yes, that's right.
And the frustrations that come with that, and backtracking trying to fix it is very frustrating. And we were trying to just reach a consistent methodology and approach. So we wanted everyone doing it a certain way to get a certain output, and we found that was not really being achieved through the Excel versions of our budget templates. And probably one of the most critical aspects was being able to analyze on the fly. We weren't able to do that very easily. It was quite clunky. Yes, you can do analysis in Excel, but it's not as quick as easy to do on the fly as we'll be able to show you we can do in Qlik. Okay, so that brings us to why forms. Okay, the main reason was users were able to input plans directly within the Qlik Sets interface. So it's something they were already used to. We've been using Qlik for 12 months now, and the broader team is very comfortable with the platform and very familiar with using it. So it was something they were already used to. So having an extension like Forms into Qlik made it, it was very convenient for users to have everything in the one platform. All the data was already there. We've already had all our sales data coming in, all our forecasting data coming in, so everything was all consolidated, ready to go. It just needed a way of being able to do the inputs. It's a very fast and simple implementation. So with the Forms product, it's, as Christina will demonstrate later in the webinar, it's a very simple and easy thing to implement. You don't need to be an IT guru to do the basic implementation of it. Obviously, there is a bit more complexity when you start applying your business logic, and it comes down to the complexity of your business. But in terms of the implementation of the product itself is pretty straightforward.
Yes, the complexity is then with all the calculation and the logic behind that. It's all Qlik scripting, yeah, and that's depending on business, obviously.
Yep. One key benefit we saw was the costing model. It's licensed per server rather than per user. So obviously very attractive for larger companies. Even for a company our size, it was very attractive. We've got multiple users, so we didn't have to pay per user. It's just one flat fee per server, which was a really attractive model to us. And the other benefit for return on investment, there's many other use cases that we identified early on that we could use this product for, and we have already started doing that across the business as well. So you're not just amortizing it across this one thing. There's lots of other things you can spread the cost across.
Yeah, and just one sort of comment. I remember how this all started. It was quite nice because we were just sitting in the office one day and working on some other Qlik related development, and Jeff asked me, it's really bad that you can't input anything, that you just can't do anything. We would sometimes like to make comments or things like that, and like even our budgeting, like it would be just so easy. You could just do it in Qlik, just manipulate the numbers a little bit. It just sucks that we can't do that. And I said, yes, you can. There is an extension for it, and that's pretty much how it all started. Then we started to discuss, and then sort of stayed a bit late to go through the current logic, and it was also quite tight, wasn't it? It was back in
it was
start of April, I think.
Yeah, we had a very tight timeline to deliver. I think we had about 3 weeks that our budget templates were due to the business. We had to make a decision there and then. Do we do it in Excel again, or do we take on this great opportunity of doing it through Forms? So we took on the challenge, and it was a lot of late nights and weekends and hard work, but we got it delivered on time, and the business was really appreciative of that and grateful.
Excellent.
Okay, how we use Forms. So give you a bit of an insight how we use it. So we had 12 different users from across our business inputting into the budget templates. Now this is spread across 3 different countries. We also have 3 different business units, and we have hundreds of customer groups. We actually have thousands of customers, but we roll them up into customer groups, and then we have thousands of products. So you can see there's a fair bit of data that needs to be reviewed and inputted. So that having it in a product like Forms made that certainly much easier. How every user has accessed only his or her data. So this was great, and again, some challenges you can get with shared Excel spreadsheets is getting data overridden. There's no issue with that with forms, and we'll explain that a bit more as we go through this webinar. The final budget is calculated very quickly, so as you do, you can do a fast reload on the fly, and you can see very instantly the changes that you've inputted and what that means to your budget. And again, we'll be able to show you some of those sheets and how that's how that works. And another great thing, which again was hard to do in Excel, is all the history is tracked. So every change that's made is audited and logged, and you can see who made it, when they made it, and if you need to, you can revert back to prior data as well. So it's really handy to have all that information logged. And probably, again, one of the key outputs was being able to analyse the data. So everyone can obviously analyse it, but for senior managers, being able to, again, if you think to Excel, trying to put together 6 or 7 different spreadsheets, as opposed to having it all in one platform that can be reviewed and analysed immediately, that was another great benefit we got out of the Forms product.
Yeah, and now when I think of it, I can't quite imagine very well how you were able to do all this in Excel. Like, it must have been huge with the thousands of products. Must have been like huge spreadsheets, wasn't it?
It was. They were very big spreadsheets, and everything had to be perfect or else they would break, and to trying to get them all to balance at the end of the day was really challenging. And we got better at it over the years, but it still was problematic every year, just going through the budgeting process.
Yeah.
Okay, so what value did EMARK and Forms deliver to us? It was basically a single platform user experience, so everyone was using the same interface to do their budget inputs. We got significant time savings, so if you think, again, just trying to do pull together all those spreadsheets and put all the data, check all the formulas and do all that work, there's a huge amount of time that goes into that every year, so we got huge time saving from not having to do that. Probably a key one is error detection. So again, with spreadsheets, things can get broken easily, you can get incorrect formulas, and then data goes all out of whack. So having it in Forms and in Qlik, it just makes it really easy to detect the errors, and you get less errors as a result of that. Much better collaboration. So again, having one platform and making it visible, everyone could see it, we could all collaborate on it, we could see the results straight away. So that was really useful. And obviously very powerful analytics on the back of Qlik. So everything you do through Forms can be analysed through Qlik. So the powerful analytic tool that we have in Qlik was able to be utilised for this purpose.
Yeah, I think especially like using all the filters and things like that, you're able to pick one customer or customer group or one product class, and then just focus on planning that particular product class, and then do another product class or product group, and then just reload the data and see what's the final number. Basically, I would say that with thousands of products, this must be a pretty cool.
Absolutely, that was awesome and really useful. So just being able to take it from a large data set to cut and dice it and break it down into small chunks that we could analyse and then easily adjust was really beneficial and really useful feature. Okay, now I'll jump in and give you a live demo of the Forms product and take you through the budgeting template that we built in Qlik using Forms. So I'm just going to click on the live demo link. So now we're logging into Qlik.
I think I may need to log in.
Yep.
That's right.
Okay. Thanks, Christina. Okay, it's just opening the app now. Okay, so the first thing you'll see, we've called this our budget planning forms. So there's 12 base sheets in this app. I'm going to step you through them one by one and explain what each of them do. So the first one we have here is our budget planning sheet. And to make it a bit easier, I'm just going to apply a couple of filters. So I'm just going to apply one company, one head office, Now this is all scrambled data, and then I'll just pick a group with a bit of sales. So CG 107.
GC, I think it is.
Oh, GC.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you, Christina. Okay, there's a decent set with some decent numbers that we can look at. Now, the purpose of this sheet is the baseline units. So we as our starting point, we grabbed our forecasting data, or in certain customers that we don't forecast, individual customers, we grabbed our last year numbers, and that gave us a very good baseline to start with. So obviously we forecast every month, and we've already got a good, reasonable trend, but we put that in as our starting point. Now from there, we take those numbers and we look for any discrepancies, so any inconsistencies in the data. So there might have been a big sale that happened last year that we know isn't going to happen again next year, so we will remove that. Or the other thing we look at is the trend. So look at the flow across the months, and if there's anything that doesn't look quite right, then we would adjust it. And it's just a simple matter of, I'm not going to step through the whole process, but it's just a simple matter of highlighting the cell, and you might go, okay, that one should be 5,000 units, and then you would hit save and reload. So the purpose of that is then we're basically establishing a really good baseline and a framework for our budgets.
And the baseline, that's the units, right? That's
yeah,
the
that's right. That's the volume units. The other key thing here is for notes. So as a user doing this, you can input your notes, and then when you go and present it to your manager later, you've got a record of the changes you made and why you changed it. And it just saves so much time later on to try and explain how you came up with the budgeted number. So once you're happy with that and happy with the volume of the baseline units, we've created a shortcut here where you click on, takes you to the next sheet called growth planning. So when I move across to this sheet, the idea of this is we're able to budget our growth by quarter. So you can see there that gives you all the relevant numbers from the previous sheet rolled up as a summary. So what is the total quantity last year? What is the total baseline? And then we have 4 columns here that for Q1 through to Q4 growth. And this is just percentage growth. So you go in and enter a percentage number into each of these columns, and then that basically applies that growth on top of the baseline units that you previously said in the last sheet. Now, one of the key aspects and benefit of this sheet is you can do it in mass using the batch update. So again, once you've applied the right filters, down the bottom here you'll see a batch edit area, and if you wanted them all to say be 10%, you would just type in 10, hit the tick, and then the tick on the right hand side here, and you can see that's gone and applied 10% growth across all of Q1 for the particular selection that I've had made at the top here. So I think that's a really good feature of the Forms product, and something that was key for us in deciding to go this way. Obviously that's something you can do reasonably easily in Excel. And I put the challenge out to Christina and said, this is something we need. And she said, oh, the product already does that. We built that in already. So that was another great tick and another key reason that we wanted to go with this Forms product. The next sheet we have is a cost and price sheet. So again, using the shortcut buttons built in. So once you've set your baseline and then applied your growth, the next part to consider, and the next sheet we built to facilitate this, is around any pricing changes. So we have customer price changes. There might be price increases we've gone to the market with, or we might have cost increases from our suppliers. So the idea of this sheet is that we can factor in those. So we have 4 columns that are for cost increases or decreases that happen at times as well, and 4 columns for price increase, meaning sell price increase. Now again, this works the same way. You can do a batch update by putting it at the bottom and apply to all of them, or you can just go and enter in particular months, quarters, and you can just go and type in the figures of what they are for particular product groups. And again, the same feature, you go and put notes in, and then you've got a clear record of all the inputs you've done and why you did them.
So at first you basically start with baseline in terms of units, the number of units that are forecasted.
Yep.
Then the growth in units is applied.
Yep.
And so that gives you the budget for quantities, and
Yes.
then basically you need to set up the central growth for costs and prices to be able to calculate the sales in value rather than volume.
That's right. So we did bring in all the current pricing from our system, but the ability of that cost and sell price sheet is you can make adjustments to that. So what your price is today doesn't necessarily mean what the price is going to be for the whole year ahead. So that gave us the ability to plan that in and make sure our budget's as accurate as possible.
Yep.
The next element is to being able to add new products. So this again was another challenge I put to Christina. We needed a way of being able to import new products. We know what we know from the past years and previous, history of products, but what about the new stuff, the products that we've just won, new ranging that we've won that we need to plan for the year ahead? So this was a way that we could do that. So you could simply pick, from the drop downs, again, to keep data consistent with no errors. You would go and pick the relevant areas, and this is applying a limited selection because I've got filters applied at the top, but for the purpose of the exercise, you can see what I'm doing. So you pick all the relevant key fields, and then you might just put in, whatever the product is. I'll just call it new one in this case, new one description. And then you put in a cost price, obviously it needs a cost and a sell. And then you'll put in notes. You then go save and reload again. That goes and creates the record back in the original baseline sheet, the very first sheet we started in. And then once you've done that, you would go and input your budget, unit budget for each month, your volume budget for each month. And then it would multiply that volume budget by the cost and sell price that you've entered here in this sheet. And that's a very handy way of being able to get new products in there.
It might be also a good comment to say that this sheet is not available to everyone, to make sure, because otherwise it's much easier if there is one person who takes care of adding the new products, because every new product is then added. So if you add a product twice or multiple times because multiple users have access in here, then it might create a bit of confusion. So that's why we decided to give access to add new products just to one user. So that's something that can be also set up in QMC.
Yeah, so you can control access to certain sheets for certain reasons. So that was a very handy one. Okay, so once you've done that, so you've set up your baseline, you've added your growth, volume growth, you've then applied your pricing changes, and then also added the new products. Then you might want to see, okay, what does all that mean and what is the output of all that? So there's a button up here to take you to the next sheet, which is called Final Budget. And again, it's retaining the selections that I previously made. So this is one of the key aspects that, and using forms and Qlik, we could actually analyze our new budget on the fly. So you can see down the bottom here, and visually is probably the easiest way to see this when you're looking at trends. We used to have issues in prior years where we didn't quite get the seasonality right. This enables us to see what the sales last year were, what is our new sales budget, and what is our new sales growth. And then you can look for any spikes up or down and go, okay, that doesn't look right. You can then go back and make the changes on the fly and then come back to this sheet again and have a look and see, okay, have I fixed it? Does it look right now? And you can look at that at any level. So you can drill up, drill down, look at it total company, total customer, total products, category, or however you want to cut and dice.
Looks like the sales is increasing quite a lot in Christmas time, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. There's definitely a spike at Christmas. But as you can see, the trend is pretty similar to prior years.
Yeah.
Or last year. Okay, once you're happy with that, and as a user, you're happy with your budget, you then might bring your manager in to have a look at it. And the best way for them to look at it is in this another sheet that we built. So this is a company analysis sheet. So from here you can see all the key metrics at the top in KPIs. So what is the sales budget? What was it last year? What is the growth? What is the margin budget this year and last year and the growth? The percentage, GM budget, and average sell price. So all just top line KPI key metrics. Then down below that, there's a table here with all the key data. But again, I like the graphs because they're the easiest way to see it. You can look at the trends this year, last year, and probably this key one over here on the right. And I'll just maybe blow that up a little bit. So this is a key one where you can see these are for the filter applied for group CG107. They're all the products, and this is where the growth is coming from, and it tells us the percentage of where all the growth is coming from. So you can see in this case it's actually, we've got it going backwards, but you can see where the mix of it is. So it really helps you drill in and see, okay, I need to go and tweak that, adjust that, correct that area because it doesn't look quite right.
Mm-hmm. And you can see that the ones that are that will decrease compared to the previous year are red, and the other ones are green, right?
That's right. That's again, just making it very visual and easy for people to see, so you can go and make your changes straight away. Okay, so they're the key sheets that you would use on a everyone would use and managers, and then there is a few other sheets that I'll just click on the right button, sorry, that I'll take you through and show you. So obviously once you've done the budget, then we had a requirement, and I'm sure most people will as well, where we had to get the data out of the system and then get it imported into our ERP system for budgets, and also we needed to import it back into Qlik as a finished budget. So we built a sheet that gave us exactly what we needed in the right format, so we could export that straight to Excel. We could then take it and import it into our ERP system and then put it into the folder that we use to import our budgets into Qlik as well for analysing throughout the year. So that was a great time saver. If you think again back to the Excel days and us in our business anyway, we had multiple files that we had to try and consolidate, try and bring back together, and then ultimately come up with an overall number and try and work out what that number was versus last year, and then also be able to import it into the requirement of ERP systems. That was a massive time saver for us and a huge benefit that we got out of the Forms product.
So basically, just to make this clear for everyone, so every member of the sales team is planning the budget for their customers,
yes,
for their portfolio, and then the managers can go in and they would see the whole company, right?
That's right, yeah. And again, we did put some security around it for certain managers. If you're only, say, a state manager, you could only see your state, but if you're a national manager, then you could see the overall number, the national number.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, so it's very customizable and controllable. The next sheet we had was an FX rate sheet. Now again, you're not going to want everyone playing around in this sheet, so we locked this down. And let me just take off the company filter for a sec. So I'll take all those off so you can see it a bit more detail. What this gave us is the ability to play around with FX. So we have 4 columns there that shows the historical average of currency for the prior 12 months, and then we were able to set what we wanted the currency to be for the year ahead. Now that was it's obviously anyone's guess where the currency is going to be, but we have to take a position, and we did. And now what that will do, that will go and apply, if you have any FOB sales, it will convert them into local currency, or it will adjust the cost of goods based on the currency you're putting in to then factor that into your margin calculations. So it's a very important step for us, and it's important. Obviously budgeting sales is one thing, but budgeting margin and costs are very important and even more critical. So it was something that we needed to get right. So that was a great thing that we were able to build into the program.
So would you consider changing this like throughout the year as well, and to change because if for example, if the US dollar exchange rate is going to either declining very significantly or rising very significantly, then you would, for example, go in and change the Q2 and then basically regenerate the whole budget values?
You certainly could. It's not something we do. Once we do our budget, we set it and lock it, and it's fixed, and then it can't be changed, and we manage currency in other ways. But that flexibility is there. At any point in time, you could change it and reload it, and then you could have an updated budget. And certainly while we were setting the currency number, we did a lot of that. We did a lot of back and forth and change it 0.5 cent here, 1 cent there, and see what impact it had. So we did do a lot of that. And again, the beauty of this platform is you can analyze it straight away as you make your changes.
Okay.
So the next sheet was a validation sheet, and again this was very beneficial from the error checking and error detection aspects. Now I wish I didn't take those filters off, so I'm going to reapply them because there's a fair bit of data in here.
I think there might be a bookmark as well.
Oh yeah, good point. I should have done that. Let's go and have a look.
No, maybe not.
No,
Sorry for that.
It's all right, we took it out, didn't we? Okay, I'll just do that. That same one we had before. So the beauty of validation now, the reason we built a validation sheet is we used to have problems in Excel where people would put a cost in but forget to put a cell, or they'd put a cost in a cell and forget to put a quantity, particularly around new products and things like that. So we needed a way of validating, making sure have we got all the key metrics that we need to do a sales and margin budget. And Christina was able to build this sheet for us that gives us the way to easily validate that. And you can see, if I look down this quantity column, you can see all these nulls. That means there's no budgeted quantity. Now that might be right. There might be some cases that we're not budgeting every product in every month for every customer. But the beauty of it is you can quickly identify them and go, okay, does that look right? Does that look wrong? And you can even click on them and highlight them and just look at all the nulls in one go straight away. So that's a very handy tool, very great feature, and something that made it really easy for us to detect errors. The next few sheets are about audit tracking. Now the beauty of this is you can see every change that was made. So every input that someone does, once they hit save and reload, is tracked. It's written to an audit log. Now that was really handy. Had a couple of cases where people, kind of got a bit this was new for them. They got a bit mixed up, did things in the wrong order, and just didn't really get the right answer and what they wanted. And they wanted to be able to go back to their original number and redo it. So using this audit log, they were able to do that, and they were able to just grab those numbers and re-input them back into the baseline sheet at the very start, and that gives them, resets their starting position in terms of a baseline number. It's a very handy tool to be able to audit it and track all the changes that were made. And along the same lines as that, the next sheet was around growth. So it's about tracking all the inputs that were made in the growth sheet. And it does give you a chart down the bottom there where you can see the number of changes that were made. It tells you the date and time they were made, and above that you can see where it puts who. So default means that's what it was in the original starting position, and then the modified by it puts all the users' names in as the changes are made.
So here you can actually see which records were not modified just yet.
That's right. Yeah,
because they're highlighted.
It's exactly nice. Right. So it's another way of seeing who's done what so far and who you need to follow up and who you need to chase to get their budget done. So that's another useful tool of it, useful benefit from the tool.
And the bottom one shows the number of modifications, or?
Yes, that's the number of inputs or number of entries that have been changed. So you can see there was 22 changed on the 25th of June in this example.
Okay, nice.
And then the last one is, again, it's along the same lines. The last three are just all audit logs, but this one's around the cost and price. So it's just the key fields that needed to be audited, the key sheets. So this one's about tracking the cost and price changes that have been inputted. And again, you can overwrite, you can go back and restore to where you were, or you can look at the history of what's been changed and who changed it.
Okay. Excellent. I'm not very familiar with these last sheets because that's what you've pretty much built for yourselves. Just to maybe explain this a little bit more, this data is coming from XML files, and then it behaves just like any other data. So you can create your own charts and tables and things like that to build your own audit log and basically your own logic of tracking things. So yeah, Qlik itself is highly customizable and it works with data. So if you have data like this, then you can really build something like tracking your.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's so much like trying to. How would you do this in Excel? You wouldn't be able to track what it was, apart from if you did version control and create multiple versions of files, which is really messy and complicated to manage. Again, it's all here. It's all in one platform. It's easy to analyze and report on. It's fantastic.
If you were to pick one favorite thing in this solution, what would that be?
I think being able to analyze the data. So, when you think you've got, and I used to do the inputs myself, so I know what it's like. When you're going in and making all the changes to budgets, you want to know straight away what the output is, what the answer is. And in here, you can see it very quickly. If I, again, just click back to that sheet, and if I look at the final budget sheet, very quickly there, being able to see the trend and the changes that are made, and you can very easily see, okay, that's not right, or that is right, or wow, we're going to do that much in September, those sort of things. So I think being able to see that and then go and be able to adjust it and then go back and have a look and see your adjustments straight away would certainly be, for me, the number one thing that this is delivered to the business. Because it's not just about making a tool easier, it's about making it better, and this gives us a tool to budget better.
Okay, so now let's move on to questions. We do have a few more. So there is a question if Forms is going to work within QlikSense mobile app. So you can use Forms on your mobile device or any device when you're accessing Qlik through browser. However, we haven't tested it with QlikSense mobile app, so I can't tell you for 100% if it's going to work, but we'll come back to you with this question. And then there was another question. If you can customize your Forms template, for example, if you want to lock some rows, for example, if you have summary rows, if you can lock them, or if you can do some other customized things. And the question is yes. We have built, for example, a template that looks like a P&L that was specifically designed for P&L forecasting. So it is possible. You just cannot do it within the user interface. This requires some backend customization, but it's possible. All right, so we don't have any more questions. So thank you very much for your time, and we will send you all the relevant materials and links later on via email. Thanks. Have a good afternoon.